All right, welcome again to a Retirement Living Associates podcast. We're happy to be doing these in concert with Retirement Resource Guide, and we hope you're enjoying them. We have a second session today with a veteran in this business and someone who is very knowledgeable in this business, and Perry Aycock. So, Perry, thank you again for joining us.
Thank you,
I look
David.
forward to a few more topics and covering some things we want to talk about. One of the things I want to talk about today, which I know is an hour topic, but we've got a few minutes,
Right.
about the market and the changing as the baby boom is arriving.
Yeah.
You know, we discussed baby boom in my back when I was in school in the early '80s. So it's been known about for a long, long time, and this group of people coming.
Right.
And so now that it's here, talk about that a little bit. I know you have some definitions around that and thoughts.
Yeah, it's fascinating to me. You know, there are very few predictions other than demographic predictions that are really predictive. Most of them are wrong. But when you look at tens of millions of people showing up at a different stage of life, that's a powerful thing that's happening. And I think the rest of the world's waking up to that now.
Yes.
You know, the oldest baby boomer turned 79 this year.
The oldest baby boomer.
Yeah.
Okay.
And people debate about which year and all that
Sure,
type of thing, but,
sure, but-
it's fair-ish. They're just
Sure.
getting ready to turn 80, which is when lots of people move to communities or join
Right.
programs or things like that.
So born mid-40s.
Yeah, right after the war. Everybody was thrilled to be alive,
Yeah, that's right.
and therefore they made a lot more life. So it is something, you know, the thing, like you probably see these, you know, National Investment Center reports where they
Yes.
say we're $500 to $700 billion behind on building communities like the Cedars or
That's
Springmore
right.
or whatever it may be. We're not, and we can't build them that quickly. You know,
That's right.
if you're lucky, you might have somebody move in within 5 years.
That's right.
There are only 11 or 12 or 13, depending on how you want to count the communities, that have been added in 20 years.
Right.
So it's a challenge. We're starting to see it here. It's kind of interesting because at an entrance fee or a rental community, you know, the folks who own or run the community set the price. Here at the Cedars, the folks who are moving in set the price because the condominiums are being sold at market rate.
That's
So
right.
we're seeing that baby boom effect start to hit the pricing on the purchase prices because there are more and more folks that are desirous to move.
Right. Right. And I don't need to be told I'm 12th on the list. If I'm willing to be high bidder, there I go.
That wait list concept is a fascinating thing from that, you know, beginning of time in
Sure.
this field. It's difficult. I like the way this works in that we know what the price is.
That's right.
We don't have to guess that, and we may be too high or we may be too low. It's the same as anywhere else. There are places that are a lot more appealing, or some folks don't like as much as others, and it all works out. The market tells you what the price is.
That's right.
So,
That's right. How about what do you see in the circles you run in as far as baby boomers' demand of more choices or demand of things? I have found that an intriguing discussion for 30 plus years.
Yep.
Because the residents I have helped for 30 years have expressed their desires also.
Right.
Sometimes people portray that the baby boomers are going to be more outspoken. Well,
I think everybody wants more, but I don't think that's a new trend, like you
Right.
were saying.
right.
I think there are more of them who want more things, and so to a degree, you can't be everything to everyone. And so you pickleball, we were talking about earlier. Some folks want tennis, some folks want pickleball, some folks want bocce ball, some folks want whatever. Unless you have a huge campus, you may not have all of the above, and that's okay.
That's right.
There was a little bit of an arms race going on, I think, for the last 20 years that I don't know that we're going to see going forward because the land costs are difficult, the construction costs are difficult, the civil costs are, and timelines are struggles,
Right.
let's say.
Some of that race I saw, especially in the arena of swimming pools,
Oh, yeah.
or there's fancier names for those. I'm drawing a blank. But
Aquatic centers.
aquatic centers. There's
Yes.
even another one, natatoriums and
Ooh,
stuff
that's the best.
I've
Charge
heard,
extra
so-
for that one.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So yeah, I would agree. I think all of us in the industry are aware that the baby boom is a demanding segment. So were their predecessors as far as expecting quality service and all of that. But it's also large, and I think they're used to the impact they have on marketplace.
Yeah.
There's a lot of examples from the recreational industry, bicycle design, for example, serial design of how the baby boomers have sort of dictated what's being delivered to them, which is a good thing. Perry, I wanted to pick back up our discussion a little bit about the North Carolina Department of Insurance and
Yep.
their regulation.
Yep.
I think that it is sometimes keeps some developers out of our state,
Maybe.
which is probably a plus for the consumer, because I think that indicates that there's a standard, and then the Department of Insurance staff is going to work at making sure that's maintained.
Yep.
I know you've done a lot with the rewrite of the statute, so just speak to that. What was the name of that committee and the work y'all have done over several years? And
Right. The North Carolina Department of Insurance is the governing body that continuing care retirement communities or programs fall under. So there's a lot of things that don't fall under that. I think it's probably the first thing for a general audience is, barring that you're looking at a community that has independent living and health care or provides similar services in your home, the Department of Insurance is not in charge of, say, a standalone assisted living or memory care
That's right.
building.
or even if you partner an independent next to an assisted living, that doesn't mean it's under the Department of Insurance.
You could, if you want to go through the approval and then the ongoing review process, but a lot of people choose not to, understandably, because there is a requirement for a lot of disclosure. North Carolina is one of the most transparent states. They've done a great job, in my opinion. If you look around the country, there are states where they don't do a good job. Most states, they don't do the job at all. Like
That's
more than
right.
half of them have no rules at all. Of the regulated states, North Carolina, I think, has done one of the better jobs, and that task force that they put together that I was asked to be on is a proof of that, I think, because they brought together 30 people, plus or minus, that were from the communities, that lived in the communities, or that were folks like me that were advisors to the communities. And
Yes.
we went through the statute, every single definition, every
Yeah.
single chapter,
and
every
they did
single
it
verse.
from provider to accountant to attorney to
Yeah,
the whole
I don't know what
range.
I don't know how I fit into any of those, but somehow
Yes.
I got included.
senior expert.
Senior expert.
Senior expert.
Yeah. And so that work was exhaustive. I mean, I'm amazed that they made time amidst all the other responsibilities they had to get that
Yes.
work done. We finished the work. It went through the legislature and stopped at the final step and has not completed yet.
Sure.
We're going back now and addressing some of the little things that have happened over the past 2 years to try to make sure that that statute can live for 20 or 30 years forward. And hopefully, when we resubmit it, it will get passed this time, and we'll have a new set of rules that will continue to serve the people that live here in North Carolina well.
Tell me a little bit about the rules as they are today,
Right.
and in the rewrite or the new one concerning CCRC at home. I know there's been a
Right.
provision for CCRC without lodging,
Right.
or at home, or the different terms.
Right.
But the idea being more insurance than ever, in my thought, that I stay where I am,
Right.
but I have secured these options, or if I need these, or hypotheticals, or whatever they're called. So
Yeah, the current statute calls it continuing care without lodging. And
Right.
That addition to the statute is probably 12 or more years old now. Carroll Woods and Salem Town had the first early acceptance program and continuing care at home program, which fortunately now they're changing, I think, the definition to be not continuing care without lodging, but continuing care at home. And basically what that means is most folks, let's just say 80% of the people that could move to a community like the Cedars say, well, I'd rather stay at my house.
for X more years, 2 or 5 or
Sometimes,
something.
until I go out, boots first. That's what everybody always joked about. That doesn't necessarily mean everything's going to work out well. And so these continuing care at home programs basically take the services of a community like this or your communities, and they build a team to be able to provide those services in those distributed homes. Like here in Meadowmont, Raleigh, there's a new program called Thrive More at Home that's part of the Baptists here in the state they're opening that first program. Gibbons up in Asheville started their first program. Salem Town celebrated their 10th year of their navigation program this year. I think they have 150 plus members, which you think about that, like a lot of communities, when you build phase one,
Yes.
you're somewhere around 150 or 200 folks.
That's right.
When
So
you
it's
think
another phase.
Right. You think about that baby boom and the fact we can't build fast enough to possibly accommodate the 10 or 20% that might want to move. These programs help solve that problem. These programs, for folks that are listening that are in Triad, I would assume, but all over, learn about that navigation program, because it's a great idea. It may not be right for you, but in learning about it, you'll better understand what you may need to plan ahead for better than you're doing without it.
I know one of the concerns early was that it somehow overutilizes the amenities spaces that I thought I had as a resident already here.
That's the first
And
concern.
so, yeah, how has that been put to rest or discussed, or is that something you view as ongoing, or?
I think it is ongoing. I think, pick on Carroll Woods here for being the smart ones to come up with this idea. They had excess healthcare capacity.
Yes.
And that is required by the statute, that you have an actuarial study that shows you do have that excess capacity, and you're
In
projecting
extended long-term care.
exactly. You're projecting forward 20 years that things are going to go up and down, and some days you may not, but that you're going to have room for everybody. So the thing I love about working with these communities is they honor their promises. Like, they don't want to overpromise.
That's right.
They want to over-deliver. And so that actuarial study is the first requirement in the law, both old and new. And then you go like, well, is there going to be room at the restaurant? Is there going to be room in the pool that you talked about before? And you have to be careful. There are places where you say those things are not included or those things are included. What people, I think, are buying in that is a plan, as opposed to let's hope everything works out well. If there is spare capacity, which we don't have here at the Cedars, but Carolina Meadows and Carroll Woods here and the Forest is doing this now too. There are 10 programs in North Carolina, these early advantage programs already.
Early advantage, is that another term, CCRC at home?
It's a subset of the
name.
same rules.
Okay.
Because if you do, to me, I call it the continuing care at home programs are the full programs. Those are the ones we touched on. Salem Towns Navigation, Gibbons Choice, and Thrive More at Home. Those are full programs, meaning I'm not planning to move, I'm planning to stay. I'm going to live in place. People age in place. People don't like to talk about aging, so it's live in place now.
Yes.
The early advantage or early acceptance programs, of which there are 10 now, are plans where they say, I want to move to that community, but you don't have what I want today. I want the big one on the corner. I want, the cottage instead of the apartment, or whatever it may be. But I also know that I might not qualify when it's time to move in.
Health-wise,
Correct.
Independent living ability, okay.
Exactly. So these programs allow people to qualify today. They have to start paying today, not as much as if they'd moved in, but they do pay a reduced fee. And for anywhere that has excess capacity and excess demand, it's kind of silly not to do it. Because it helps
I know some
more
of our
people.
communities we're looking at, when you've been a community long enough, I don't know the definition of becoming an institution, but you sort of have.
Right.
And so what other things could that institution do for this age sector? And so, yeah, I think it's a great push to say, as opposed to being limited to our acreage, what else can this institution help? But it is a balancing act of the commitments and the promises and people that live there versus don't live there and all that. So that's good.
I think we need to try to serve more lives. And I think for the places where there's excess capacity, this is a good way to add 20 or 30% more lives than you can serve, and you don't have to spend $100 million on a building.
Right.
So it's super appealing to, I think, the customers, to the owners and the operators, where those things match up. It's a wonderful opportunity.
Do you think it also plays a role in helping financially, I'll say, secure a community, but I don't want to imply that they're unsecure at the moment.
Right.
But it is another potential revenue. It is another potential source financially of strengthening a community.
It's a nice revenue stream in that you don't have a lot of expense. You're taking the same risks that you're taking with the folks that live there. You're just not building the building. A program would equal 2 buildings that are around us.
Right.
You know how much it would cost to build 2 buildings.
Oh yeah.
So it's a nice way to be able to extend the mission or the margin, depending on what people are focused on more at the moment. But it certainly helps strengthen the balance sheet. Certainly helps make those next opportunities more easily attained. Your debt service coverage ratio. That's probably way too much detail.
No, that's good. But I think people that live in a community, if there is a negative or a pushback, which I don't think there is much, I don't want to exaggerate that, but a hesitancy to what does that mean to me living here, but it also strengthens where I live financially, so that should be a great thing.
Yeah.
So That's good. That's
Yeah,
good.
I agree.
Okay. Anything else you want to add on those topics? I appreciate you taking the time. We're doing our podcast, but we're thrilled that we're able to get people willing to help us and
Fun
share
for me.
their insight.
You know, usually we, sit and do this, without
One-on-one.
a camera.
That's right. That's right. Over lunch.
It's nice to be able to
That's
do
right.
this.
Well, thank you
I'm
much.
grateful.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you. Good
Yeah.
day.